where's that? So, what do we got for our fourth film? What's your favorite fourth film?
My favorite. You mean
number 4?
Number 4, my favorite. That's The Undiscovered Country.
Number 4. Yeah.
Of course, I said I couldn't. I was sorry I couldn't give this movie a high rating. This is the movie that says, "Leave your audience wanting more." That's what I thought. Yeah. And it also answers why there's a Klingon on Next Generation.
Yeah.
I love that part. And yeah, I get the whole racist thing. I mean, yeah, but
here's my personal opinion. I would have accepted it more if Bones was that way.
Well, let's no. See, but that's what you don't understand about him grieving his son.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't conveyed better.
This is where it's conveyed.
Mm-hmm.
Because
3 movies later.
Yeah. Well, that's because he's Kirk.
Yeah.
Here's the man is about his job.
Right.
Kirk is not a guy that takes being the captain of the Starship Enterprise lightly. Mm-hmm. And he's only known that child really a little while.
Right.
So, which is more important to him? His ship or this child that he hasn't known very well?
Yeah.
Well, I hate to say this, but it's his ship.
Right.
And it's not really the ship.
Yeah.
It's the people on the ship.
But see, that's what I'm saying.
Because they show that over and over.
And again,
now,
you're just
if you want to talk about him
Yeah.
grieving his son, he's grieving his son because a Klingon took his son.
Yeah.
So, there's his racism.
Right.
That's why the racism's in there.
Yeah.
Now, I don't like it. I don't like using racism. I don't like it at all.
No.
But the thing is that it's used to show how some people grieve.
Yeah.
And it's not a good thing. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And maybe it shows how the humanity of Kirk. And that he's a flawed guy. And that and the thing is that I don't think he ever resolved it.
Well, I mean, like I said, I think it was if it had been conveyed earlier in the series, I could have justified it more.
Well, I don't want to think so. I
think he had enough time. Like I said, my personal opinion, like you said, I think he would, because Khan's whole race was eliminated. I guess they are. Do you know if any more of Khan's people are still around?
It's possible.
Okay, let me tell you this. This would make more sense. Let's say if Khan's people were still around and he was still upset over what they did to Spock, I would find more justification maybe in that. I had, like you said, I had a little struggle, like I said, because I feel like his thing with Klingons was never a personal thing, and that he was always the wise captain. Because it's like a lot of people, it's like a guy said, people don't get Kirk a lot of times. They think he's a womanizer, risk taker type commander. But they forget about the episodes where he's the only person on the ship, where he has to reason with Bones. Like Bones says, "I'm not a geologist, Captain, but you're a doctor, and you're supposed to save lives." And Bones said, "I'll work on the rock." And because it took Kirk to do that. Yeah. That's the reason why if Bones went in there and said, "I ain't doing anything with them Klingies," I'd be like, I believe it. I believe Bones being that way. And Kirk trying to convince, because the bottom line, they're both going to prison. Mm-hmm. Kirk and Bones are both going. So I think it was wrong for the writers to make Kirk the anti-Klingon person.
Well,
that's just my opinion, and I think it hurt him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think so, because it has to do with, like I said, it again, the reasoning. Right. There is a reason why.
Because they killed his son.
Yeah, and people do that.
Yeah.
There are people that, I remember seeing a talk show not too long ago where this woman talked about her parents having a little mom and pop store, and a person of another race robbed that store. And guess what? They said, I don't like those kind of people.
Yeah.
And while it's not right, while maybe it's not justified, it's how some people think. And it's how, said, and I think that's what they wanted to do with Kirk. And there was a lot of bad blood. There's not, well, now again, I don't think that he felt the Klingons were redeemable. But then again, he never saw the Worf in that movie.
Yeah, Michael Dorf.
But it was his
grandson.
Yeah.
Which is Worf.
Worf never saw his nobility and his honor used on the Enterprise in the Next Generation.
Okay.
So he just never saw any honor in Klingons.
Okay, now as far as Lieutenant Uhura not knowing Klingon, did that bother you or not?
It did, but not as bad as when I look at the original movie, the original TV show that the motion picture was based on, where they made her lose her entire memory and she had to be re-educated to everything. Did you know that?
That was on the OST.
Yeah, there was in the original series, the movies, the Star Trek, the motion pictures, the episode that it was based on, she loses her entire memory. It wipes her memory, and she has to learn everything over again. Well, maybe when she did that, she got the wrong thing on. I don't know. It's just saying, there's going to be some explanation for that.
But that's the only.
I don't know. It's just.
Like I said, there's little things. And I hate saying it because I'm trying to think of the
like I said, it wasn't.
David Warner is great in it.
Well, I thought Plummer was good in it.
Oh, Plummer is the best. And here's something another thing is, Shatner was his stand-in for many years during the Canadian play. And so it was Shatner who suggested him to be. So he was Plummer's understudy, and which is really great. And he knew that Plummer could do Shakespeare really well. And of course, a lot of people say another thing too is there's a lot of Shakespeare because Plummer was a play guy.
Well, but if you look at this whole series, there's a lot of literature used in it.
Yeah.
And for instance,
I will say here, I feel
Khan. Do you know what a lot of people compare that to?
Yeah.
The Wrath of Khan.
Right.
Moby Dick.
Yeah. But this one, I think one thing
because
is attracted a lot of people because New Generation was getting new fans.
Right.
And this film kind of attracted a lot of New Generation people. Yeah. But like I said, I watched it. I was kind of disappointed in it after what I've seen of the series. But like I said, you got David Warner's role in it, Chris Plummer's role in it were really great. And the funny thing is, David Warner got to be in 2 in a row. Two different characters.
But that's it's.
All right, and
what's your next one?
Okay, so my fourth favorite one is it's funny because Star Trek 4 is my fourth favorite Star Trek, and again, like I said, I like it, and the reason why I do is because it feels like a movie to me. It feels it's very fun. This is one, if I want to take the kids to, I'd take them and go see this one. Like I said, there's no, even though it is San Francisco, we don't have Sulu trying to pick up sailors or anything like that.
Well,
it is fun.
I guess if your kids like Free Willy, I guess.
Yeah, if your kids like Free Willy and that kind of thing, this is up there with it. There is a lot of cussing in it. I forget about that. But it's all right, fun. Like I said, I don't like the story of that line. That's the reason why it's at 4. Because if the storyline was a little bit better than just a log looking for whales to talk to, it'd be up there. Because it's, like I said, all the crew's got something to do. I believe Leonard Nimoy put in his best effort. They put in these great special effects for what they got because they blew their budget. Yeah, and did everything they put into it.
Great.
Oh my goodness, the whales look so real.
Yeah, that's not why.
But like I said, if it wasn't the fact, like I said, it was a black log in space looking for whales to talk to, it would be up there. It'd be up there at the top. Yeah, that's the storyline is the weakest, and that ending, of course, is the weakest. That was the only 2 things that really bring that film down. The rest of it, like I said, I still laugh today when Scotty picks up the mouse.
Hello, computer.
That wasn't a bad gag. That next to Spock's lines were
okay. A lot of people don't know. Okay, when Chekhov is going around looking for a vessel, they hired these extras and they had them go while looking. They were filming, and they actually picked a young lady who was not an extra. When they found out that hers was the best line, they went and looked for her to get her to sign a waiver to be in the film. And some of those things were just cute. And like I said, I think it's a little homage to the time traveling. This was a tough one. Shatner at first was not on board with this because I think a lot of it had to do with Nimoy directing 2 in a row, but also the fact that he was not a big, he didn't like the time episodes in the OST.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I think what I say about the OST time episodes is y'all had lots of guts. And you know why they do time episodes in TV series? Do you know why they do that?
So save money, probably.
Yeah, because you've got access to cowboy things and medieval stuff. So if they need to save money, that's the reason why Battlestar Galactica in 1980 came about, because they had blew their budget on the original Battlestar Galactica. Right. So they had access to all these sets. So they thought if they send Battlestar Galactica through time, they could save lots of money, and they did. Unfortunately, it wasn't as popular as the first one, but yeah, it works. It saves money and time. But, and like I said, there is some episodes or movies out there that have time homage. And of course, like I said, they brought in some great people who had already done successful time movies. Yeah. So they had their ducks in a row, and like I said, it actually is the top grossing film of the series. Motion picture is only top because of the fact it's been on DVD sales and Laserdisc sales. Thank you, Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, he was pro Laserdisc even in the 4th one. He was like, "Don't you dare buy VHS. If you're gonna watch Star Trek, you better watch it on Laserdisc." He was sitting there telling you this letterbox thing and all this widescreen. Oh, you can only see this on Laserdisc, and then DVD came out and he had to keep his mouth shut because they owned him by that time. All right, so that's what I think about the 4th one. That's my 4th favorite. What's your 3rd? Oh, we're cutting it down. Okay, we're on our 3rd favorite. What's your 3rd favorite?
It's Star Trek 3.
Star Trek 3. Why is this your 3rd favorite?
Okay.
Since I've already
I didn't have a problem with this movie at all.
Okay.
Like I said, I love Christopher Lloyd in this.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. I think you start off looking at him and you're sitting here going, man, he's a bad Klingon.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about tough Klingon. And then you realize that's Doc Brown. That's Jim Ignatowski from Taxi.
Yeah.
No, he's scary.
Right. This
Klingon is scary. And it's Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
And I like that. I get it that they should have had Christy Allen, blah, 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 blah. But I understand she's pretty difficult to work with. I don't know.
Well, it wasn't just it was Kirstie Alley. It's just the character was confusing. But here's the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is
that bothers me.
I think as they went on, they kept on writing that character out of existence.
Yeah. Well.
And that's the problem. It gets confusing. If they stuck to what they were doing, because here's the idea, folks. She was supposed to make love to young Spock and have his kid. That was what their intention was supposed to be.
Right.
And that never really ever happened.
I guess Robin Kurz wouldn't do that, huh?
No, her character was just not that interesting.
But,
it just like, sometimes you do test screenings.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, you don't even need to have her in there. Because I don't think anybody was going, remember that Slavic character? You mean there was a Slavic? No, Slavic was her name. And you're like, nobody knew. It's like, I want to get me a Slavic action figure from Star Trek 2. Yeah, they didn't have figures.
Well, I mean, it's, the thing is, too, this movie, like I said again, I think I could get by without the fourth one. You gotta have this one. Because
it connects the second and fourth one, obviously.
Yeah. No, it connects the fact that we have Spock again.
Because without the third one...
I mean, the fourth one...
without the third one, you don't know why... Why are they...
why is Spock back?
Or why they got Klingon bird of prey? Why are they grabbing Klingon? Well, here's the thing.
Well, again, I don't think.
You want to hear my biggest... You want to hear my biggest positive of the third one?
What?
The Klingon bird of prey.
Like I said, it's like your Uncle Pinto. It's a piece of junk. This one's a horrible bird of prey. It was a piece of junk.
But if you sat down to the average non-trekker,
yeah,
what two, things are going to be recognizable to him?
What, in this movie?
Any of the Star Trek franchise.
Well, yeah, I mean the bird of prey is but this was a bad one. It was a piece of junk.
You know who designed the bird of prey?
I knew this. I really did. Let me refresh my memory. Or are you asking me?
I'm asking you who was the designer.
You know.
Yes, I do know.
That's what I'm saying. Refresh my memory because I can't.
Leonard Nimoy.
Okay.
Because he has such a long wingspan, when he was describing it, this is what he wanted. And you basically look, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, okay.
And like I said, that is probably my biggest positive, is the Klingon bird of prey for the third one. Like I said, but that first 30 minutes is painful for me to watch. It really is.
Yeah, I didn't.
I do. I watch it. I'll give you this. If you watch a lot of Roger Corman science fiction at that time, that's what Star Trek 3 looks like. The first movie.
I can watch a lot of the Roger Corman.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the problem is when I think there's certain things that you have to be, like I always said about James Bond. James Bond should not copy other action films. They should be the innovator of other action films. Like, that's the standard, and I feel that way with OST. And, you guys are the ones that created people's interest. Like I said, the British got it a little bit, but until, about 75 or 76, like I said, the interest of Phase 2 was coming around anyways. I mean, like 73 was like, that's when the cartoon came out, was around 73, somewhere around there.
Yeah. I think it was, it might have been 74.
But they were like, then the conventions were coming around that time too. So there was a lot of interest to bring this thing back.
That was the whole point, is that the interest became so strong that they were just sitting here going, why aren't we doing a movie?
Well, I mean, the whole thing is when it goes to syndication, it affects worldwide.
Right.
Like, I knew Australian fans and I knew British fans. And like I said, UFO was obviously a flat-out rip-off of Star Trek. Hey,
I ain't gonna say something.
I mean, but let me tell you, I gave him props of trying, but he just did not get it. Like, he did not really get Star Trek. And I think he got it more when he did Space 1999.
Sure.
It's a little bit more like Star Trek.
Yeah.
But this is, like, I think it goes beyond what Roddenberry did, like another step of progression.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't compare UFO to Star Trek.
No, but he just was trying to take that kind of look from Star Trek.
Well, he was taking I'm sure he took.
It was very influential.
Yeah. I can't say that. I can't say that he wasn't.
I
mean, what I like about it was, okay, this was a show made in the 1970s about the 1980s.
Right.
And as we know, the style of clothes in the 1970s made a lot of people throw up because it was just really horrible stuff. Their clothes in that show were so cool.
Yeah, well, but
that to me, I'm sitting there going, "Did you guys time travel into the 80s?"
And that was the weakness of the show, is it put more emphasis on that than telling a story.
Well, there was a lot of stuff. It did.
And
it also
you have to have a balance between effects, fashion, and storytelling.
Yeah,
and the thing is with Star Trek, let's put it this way: Star Trek, what made Star Trek was great because Twilight Zone was such a success. They had access probably to some of the best writers in the world.
Sure.
That's what made it a difference in what it. So we're actually on our third favorite.
Yeah, sure. Your third.
My third favorite is the motion picture, and we've already discussed how much we both appreciate what they're doing.
Yeah.
It was a tough one. Like I said, when you get to these first three, trying to fight which ones I like better. But like I said, motion picture, if I was a kid again, it wouldn't be up this high, but the more I watch it, the more I appreciate what they did and got a lot of respect for it. And so I put it at my third favorite of these, because when you get to the first two, it's going to be really tough. It was really tough to pick because I think I really made my decision last night what I want to go with. Where is your second favorite?
My second favorite would be Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Which one's that?
That's the one where to me it's like if Shatner had been in a Star Wars movie.
Star Trek 5. Final Frontier.
Yeah, Star Trek 5. Yeah,
right. You know what? For the first time we're in agreement.
Yeah.
That's my second favorite, and it was really tough to put at number 2 because here's the thing about the fifth one. And a lot of Trekkers do not like the fifth one.
Uh-huh.
Roddenberry didn't like, but here was the deal. The deal was, like I said, we know about the clause. The clause was, if Nimoy gets to do it, I get to do it.
All
and
right.
so Shatner got directing.
He's got his film.
And his creative flows just started flowing there because during this time, while he was on set, while waiting for a lot of things to get done, he had to have approval of everything.
Mm-hmm.
He was writing Tech War. So he wrote Tech War during this time while he was on set. So his creative juices were really flowing. There was a lot of disagreement how they should portray this, and I think the thing I have to agree with is convincing him of what the creature at the end of the film was going to be, and I thought that was a good decision on their part because Shatner originally had it more on the nose.
Yeah.
Roddenberry was like, "How dare they go out and search for God?" Blah blah blah. And like, look, Roddenberry, and like I said, now Shatner's viewpoint is he feels that during the early 70s, Roddenberry had changed.
Yeah.
Like it was a new guy. Like during the late 60s, Roddenberry was, JFK type guy. He was, God, country, and and loving, and he was the cop and the ex pilot and everything. He was that kind of guy. You know, he was a JFK type of guy. And then the early 70s came out. He said, you know, he started embracing all these really secular ideas, Human Manifesto, and all these things. And he just, his open-mindedness just got worse. He was just more about this is the way it's going to be. But at the same time, as progressive he was, he still liked women in little skirts.
Sure.
But
that's progressive.
Yes, I want a woman to do the same job as a man as long as she wears a little mini skirt. That was his idea of progression.
Yeah, make that, go ahead.
Yeah, but regardless of that, okay, so Final Frontier does come out. And here's the first thing, it was like, when it first brought to me, if you watch it for the first time, there is like some questionable about special effects and that kind of thing. But the storyline is so strong and is so relevant today because let me tell you something, cults never die.
Yeah.
There's always going to be somebody with some brash idea and everybody's going to follow them because of charisma.
All right.
And I think the idea and the premise is really good. But what race would pull it off? Well, you can't have a full Vulcan.
Right.
It would have to be a half Vulcan and half human.
Yeah.
We knew the charisma of Spock. So why can't someone like Spock's brother, he would be the idea of a cult leader.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the positive of the reviews, the positive is the guy who played Sarlacc, is it Sarlacc? Is his name?
I can't remember his name right.
Yeah. The guy who plays Spock's brother is ranked as one of the best performances in the OST series. And he is. He's really, really great. And it makes it, yes, I would follow this guy. It's like watching a love interest in a movie and say, yeah, I could see why Tobey Maguire wants to kiss Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah.
I buy that. I buy why people want to follow this guy.
Right.
He's charismatic. He wants to release you of your pain. He's so charismatic, he convinces Spock, he convinces Bones to follow after them. And this is what I'm saying in Star Trek V. This is the character of why we like Kirk and the way he is. That's the reason why when you get to 6, say, wait a minute, this is not the same guy I knew in 5. Because the guy in 5 is more reasonable, he's more logical, and he wants to see for himself.
Right.
And that's what I like about the Kirk in this. Number 2 is they are older in this, but they don't show their age.
Right.
Even 60 to 50 years old, they're still good characters. Scotty is funny. Kirk is an action guy.
Right.
Spock is a logic. Bones is the grouchy old doctor. They all still present themselves as their characters, and still they do this premise that probably a lot of people were against. Like we knew Roddenberry was like, well, you know, you didn't have a problem with Nimoy and his well venture. Why do you have such a problem with Shatner trying to find God?
Yeah.
What's the problem with that? Isn't that the final frontier? You know, it's like, and then you sit there and then they clean it up on Blu-ray, they clean it up on high definition, and you think, oh my goodness, it's going to look horrible. No, it looks great.
Yeah.
And I get somebody, oh, it does special. Yeah, when you were in the movie theater. Yeah. But watch this thing now in high definition. It's beautiful. They have not released a director's cut of this. They refuse. At 90 years of age, Shatner cannot get a director's cut of this film. At 90 years of age.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
What do you think? I mean, why is this film so appealing to us, but not?
Well, because it has everything.
Yeah. Action.
I mean, here's the thing. Okay, it's. I mean, like I said, it has the action, but then it has that, like you said, a head-scratching idea.
Right.
Why would people follow a cult leader?
Yeah.
And what does God need with a star?
The greatest line.
I know! Everybody loves that line! I heard somebody the other day talking about it and said, what does God need with a starship? But it's just, I mean, it has everything. And it just, you're sitting here going, how could you not like this movie? I mean, and I really think Star Wars fans, if you wanted to introduce, say you had a Star Wars, I hate Star Trek, I can't stand Star Trek, give them this movie, and I bet they change their mind, because it's this Shatner shows himself, like you said, he's an older guy, but he's so cool in this movie.
Yeah,
and he's so cool, and maybe that's why the Undiscovered Country falls flat with you, is that I think he finally, that was it. They were trying to retire him. They was trying to put him in a retirement ideology. Because a lot of times, that's what I say, a lot of they get so set in their ways when they're retired, and maybe that's why his mind was thinking like this. He wasn't going to budge on that because his mind was set.
Yeah.
Whereas in this movie, he's still got that sense of wonder about it. Yeah. And like I said, even though it's just a movie apart, it's just still, it's to me, it's believable. I think what it is because I get used to having read comic books for years and taking years to develop a comic book character.
Right.
But now we're going to make movies. Well, okay. So we need years to... No, we ain't got years. Mm-hmm. It takes years to make a movie. It takes years to get a movie from the script to the screen. What are we going to do? Mm-hmm. Well, we've got to speed things up. And that's what I think that's why one movie to another doesn't... I can see the difference. Mm-hmm. I can see that there could be a difference in between two movies. Because it's just at this point, we're sitting here going, well, a lot of things could happen between those two movies. Maybe there's an unrecorded accident he had. Maybe he started thinking more about it. Maybe this movie made him start thinking about his own mortality.
Well, this film is I said, it goes by. It's a wonderful pacing. It has a wonderful pacing.
It is everything, like you said.
It was almost my favorite. It was almost put it as my favorite, but I had to revisit them again and redecide again. And I went on other. And the thing is, too, I'm not going by one just because I like it. I'm looking at other things as well when I make these decisions. Because just because I like a film does not mean it's a good film. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those films where I like it. I think it's a good film, and I think people who don't like it are people who claim to be scientific but are not scientific. Yeah. They're not willing to open their minds up to ask questions.
They're not into that whole...
Yeah.
I think, and that we see that a lot right now.
Yeah.
Where there's the two types of quote-unquote scientific people.
Right.
There's the scientists who, like you said, is very curious.
Yeah.
They read and they study and they search and they dig and they look and they examine and they just can't get enough of things. They want to see.
Right.
They're scientists that's just in the truest sense. And then you got the scientist who says, well, I read this paper by Joe Blow, Dr. blah, blah, blah. And you know what? He said this. And you're sitting here going, and because he uses a lot of big words, and because he's got all these letters behind his name, and because he's been everywhere, and he's done everything. In other words, he does all the work for that scientist who read his paper. It's kind of cheating.
Yeah.
Because real scientists, in my opinion, they're like Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. Do you remember Indiana Jones getting emotional about his finds?
Yeah.
about the things that he would go looking for. Get excited about it. The thing is, and that's what I love the third one, because you don't just have him getting excited about it. His father's excited about something, and you just show this excitement because being an archaeologist is a scientist.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. It just shows like I said, a difference between, what we think of as people that just accept, science is science. Science. That's science. No, we got to go with a person that actually is curious. They ask the hard questions. And sometimes they have to accept the hard answers.
Yeah.
Because they sit there and go, oh, this can only be true if this is true. Right. And that's what he's doing in this movie. And like I said, and maybe, like I said, it's just a lot happens.
Well, it just like I said, guys said, he said one thing, it doesn't feel long.
No.
You watch the film, it's very easy. Well, and I think it's almost to the point where it's like, well, it's not complicated enough to be a Star Trek. But, sometimes the easiest thing are the ones that convey the best emotion. And I think this film, to me, conveys enough emotion. It's because even though you get that high peak, like we said, with the alien at the end and everything, and then towards the end they have that discussion. It's like the icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. It's like, why are we just stopping here? The universe is always moving, and we're sitting here and saying, well, let's just stop. No, the final frontier is more than just exploring out in space.
Right.
And if that's as far as you can go, your imagination is limited.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we know that our imaginations should grow and have a larger, expanding, vision of the universe. And what this movie does for me. It's like it's a very powerful movie, and I think it was very relevant at the time of what was going on. I think it answered a lot of fears. Or calmed a lot of fears and answered a lot of questions that people were going through at the time. And I think Shatner himself was conveying his fear.
Right. There's a
mirror image of that. So finally, I would say that would mean that we both think Star Trek II is the best. Why is now, as people know, when they got to making the reboots, Star Trek II became a staple of how they wanted to do the reboots. That's how influential this movie. Why, in your opinion, is this movie so good that critics, Trekkers, non-Trekkers love this film?
Well, this movie is, I think, one thing, it's a correlation of all kinds of movies.
Right.
I mean, you've got your science fiction.
Right.
You've got your good guy versus bad guy movie. I mean, you don't always have that in the Star Trek franchise. Sometimes there is no bad guy, there's no good guy. Sometimes there's only you and me, and we just don't get it. We just disagree.
Right.
And so it's it's kind of one of these things. Well, really not. I don't hate you, and I really don't think you're a bad guy. And the same thing with you. Hey, we just don't agree on these things. And they can get away with that because Star Trek's about the mind. It really is. I mean, like you said, whereas, Star Wars and a lot of other science fictions, they lean themselves to something else. Mm-hmm. I mean, Aliens is more about horror, really. I mean, it's a terrifying thing. It's a thing that bumps in the night. Your 2001 Space Odyssey, it's almost like a philosophical thing.
Yeah.
But this movie, like I said, it has philosophical things. It has a horror to it. Right. That little thing they stick in your ear, that's pretty dadburn scary. And then here's what it is. Rather than rehashing an old episode, what do? We answer an episode. We give us a continuation. One of our very best character from the original series is Khan. Mm-hmm. People remember Khan with his ponytail and his good physique and his dark skin and just he's swarthy and he's a woman's man. Women just they just melt in front of his face and just puddle and all that sort of stuff, and he can get women, and then he's got this team of men, supermen that are just strong and so it's this whole memorable thing. Well, we wanted more.
Yeah.
Well, this movie gave you the more.
Right.
And then, what else did it do? Shocking surprise ending that nobody expected. They thought, that can't be. That's not possible. They actually painted themselves into a corner where they had to make another movie. Mm. And well, like you said, it was part of a trilogy.
Yeah. So
it couldn't really not be.
No, the thing is...
Because they'd already planned it, but it's just the fact that that's where they took that leap of faith. Because, first off, the first movie didn't do so well.
Well, they did do well for what their expectations, but it still brought
it was because of the fan base. Yeah.
But I mean, it's like that was the one that actually had action figures.
Yeah,
that's what amazes me about the Star Trek series, of course, is the second one. They're cutting the budget.
Right.
No big budget like we did the first one.
Right. We can't have 50 million different uniforms for every character.
They did what they had, and still today people think it was like this that it was like going to be a super blockbuster.
Yeah.
Number one thing is when it gets, like I said, it was tough to get Leonard Nimoy on the first one. Then they bring in the second one. They did it. Everybody, after they got done with the first one, Shatner wasn't happy with it. Nimoy wasn't happy with it. None of the actors really liked doing the first one. But when the second one came about, especially they told Leonard Nimoy, they said, okay, you can die in the second one. And he said, well, that sounds very appealing. And then, you have it where I might be able to come back in later in the franchises. Because as he started doing the second one, he was like, this is so good, I want to be back. So, that's the reason why he started writing back in the third and the fourth one. But, like I said, the Genesis is supposed to be the trilogy, and I don't think they intended it to be a trilogy. But
I don't know. There are hints even from this movie
that they were going to do a trilogy.
Yeah, there was.
Well, I mean, they were planning to do more, but
I'm saying they're all linked.
Nimoy did not think that.
That's what I'm saying. Even
that he was going to come back in the next one.
Yeah, because Voyage Home was the third movie in that that trilogy.
He wanted them to write a place where he could come back.
Right.
I mean, because he wanted the door open.
Yeah.
And because even Vulcans have a mortgage, but I mean, here's the thing: is like the second one, like I said, first thing they had to get Roddenberry off of it. That was number one thing, and I hate saying that because this is the guy who created the entire series.
Exactly.
But because that was a plus. The second thing was they said, let's get rid of these awful uniforms no one liked. Yeah. So the reason why, do you know why the actors wanted those uniforms removed?
I don't know, but
would you believe those were harder to get off to use the bathroom than the second one?
Oh, really?
They said it took so long to get those outfits on. And when they did have to remove to go to the restroom, those were harder to get off than the second one. My biggest beef and their biggest beef was they're filming in California on the second one. Those outfits were hot.
I bet.
And
all of them were.
And because they were like made out of wool.
Yeah.
Or something like it was not. But like I said, even sets have air conditioning.
Yeah.
So, but it's like you said, nowadays with the heating technology, with LED lights, there would be no issue. But back in those days, I can't imagine what those guys were going through. But like I said, the second one comes about. A lot of people they were able to please almost everyone with this thing, and I think that, and it shows. It really shows that each actor gave their best, and the storyline was good. And then, like I said, one thing I would say too, this is one where I think adults and kids get it. Like, if you were a kid during the second one, you watched it and had a fun time, and you probably were hoping they were going to make figures for this one, but they didn't.
Right. That's what's crazy.
And then it was very kid friendly, and then also it was the adults got it because you did have a relationship. Because, like I said, for the first time we see Kirk's consequences for being a playboy. What happens?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing, and that storyline was really good, and I just wished it was a little bit conveyed better than the third one.
Okay. Do you know? Hey, did you look at this guy that played his son and say, "You seen that guy before?"
Yeah, on Star Trek Next Generation. He was on one of the Star Trek Next Generation.
Well, he might have been.
And you know what the funny thing is too? That Khan's right-hand man is also in that same episode.
Yeah. Okay.
You know which S and G that he's in?
Which one?
The symbiotic relationship where they have. Okay, Khan's right-hand man.
Yeah.
Is got Kirk's son's people addicted to a drug.
I talked to you for a minute.
And then Picard
Poured myself a drink.
falls upon these people.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And the guy is like, well, you're going to have to help us. He said, you're going to have to help. He said, no, Prime Director says I can't help it. And the guy's like, and they're all smug and everything. And they said, well, then you're going to help us load our drug up. He's like, no, because of the Prime Directive, I can't help you either. So he said, now, it was okay when the Prime Directive was helping you out, but when the Prime Directive is not helping you out, now you're not so happy about it.
That's one of the ones where it really showed the Prime Directive as being, maybe we should have thought this out.
Yeah, and at that time, that was their first season, so they were still dressed up in Battlestar Galactica.
Okay, all right.
Outfits.
Okay. But getting away from Star Trek. Okay. So I don't think you know the answer to this then.
I probably do, but I have to remember.
Okay.
Because I've seen other things.
Okay. Think. It's a totally different head.
Oh, you say he was in Square Pegs?
It was Johnny Slash.
Oh, really? He was Johnny Slash.
Yes, he was Johnny Slash. Yes.
I was trying to think of some other films he had been in, but he was in a Star Trek Next Generation episode with Khan's right-hand man.
Yeah, think about that. But
well,
a lot of they were a lot of that's the whole thing. A lot of times, if you're you're a what we call an actor or an actress, and you're a Star Trek fan or Star Wars fan, you'll kill to be the guy that walks behind Captain Kirk or Darth Vader. You know, can I just walk behind it? I just want to walk behind it. Okay, sure, why not? We ain't extra. Look, that's me. That's me. I'm there. Just freeze it. There I am. I'm almost touching Darth Vader's cloak. So it's just, it's the thing. But yeah, he's Johnny Slash. But this movie also was, it was based upon Space Seed, but it was also, there was another movie.
And it's so funny, guys. I wasn't the only one that thought that Ricardo Montalban's chest was fake.
No.
Everybody thought it was. That's all Ricardo. That's all Ricardo. That is real Ricardo there.
Ricardo, 100%.
That is not fake Ricardo, people.
No, I didn't think.
And a lot of people did not. I was like too and then you watch it and you can see it's like those are kind of things. And he was like a woman's man the other day, but at the same time he was on Fantasy Island. At the same time. Which those are great shows too. Those episodes. Much better than I think than Love Boat, because at least you see the thing with Fantasy Island is it was your fantasy, but you always ended it up with your own partner. When you went to Love Boat, you ended up with somebody else's partner in Love Boat.
Yeah. But yeah, it's. But they compare this movie as well to Moby Dick, whereas
Wrath of Khan,
yeah, because he's taking on the role of Ahab, and he just, I mean, well, what it is more than in the original series, he loses his mind in this movie. Mm-hmm. He just, I mean, and that's what Ahab does. He becomes so obsessed with killing that whale that he loses his mind, and that's what he's done. And his is not, I don't think, so much wanting to kill Kirk as to make Kirk suffer. He wants to make Kirk suffer, and he wants to be better than Kirk. He wants to show his super humanity to the point he's the Uberman. You know, when you talk about that's a philosophical thing right there. Goes into the, like I said, that goes into the.
Well, I mean, the things is what they do in
Nietzsche.
This is to try to make it personal,
right?
And they do the job.
Oh yeah,
it's like Wrath of Khan is Khan took what Kirk did personal,
right,
and blames Kirk for the death of his wife.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, Khan wants Kirk to feel that,
right?
So before, then humiliating, and that's what the film is, and that's what a lot of people want. They want that magic again, and I don't think you can. I think for you to do something like that again, you would have to reboot a TV show where there's an episode like that, like OST had. There's not that many shows like that.
Well, see, that's what I haven't seen all the new Star Trek movies based on the original series, but to me they don't have the same thing.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to get there because, like I was saying, with these streaming services like Paramount Plus, I think they're going to get to the point where they want to please everybody, they have to because they want your money.
Well, I hope so, because I mean, but I don't know.
I mean, like this one again. This new Picard season 2 is basically they connect Deep Space Nine, they connect Star Trek 4, all that's connected